Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Give us just a moment. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. At this time, I would like to introduce Greg Core with OSEP.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'm going to welcome everybody to our May TA call. I hope you're listening from the comfort of your home office or your dining room table or kitchen counter, or in my case, the big comfy chair in the upstairs bedroom, because everybody's kind of driven me up there. We've got a couple kids who are distance learning, and my wife is teleworking. So you go where you can, but welcome. Looks like we have great participation today, 300 plus folks. We have an action-packed call. I'm just going to take a moment here, and then we can go into the main content. But before we do, I want to introduce the new Deputy Director for OSEP. His name is David Cantrell, Dr. David Cantrell. He officially began this Monday. His background includes serving infants, toddlers, children, and youth with disabilities and their family as a special education teacher, an administrator, and a system-level executive. So he's served in various capacities. Before he came to OSEP, David worked as a director in the department's Office of Elementary and Secondary Education, where he administered grants to states and LEAs for the Rural Education Achievement Program and the Consolidated Grant to the Insular Areas. Additionally, he spearheaded technical assistance activities for states by leading the Office of Program and Grantee Support Services, which oversees the Equity Assistance Centers and the Comprehensive Centers. So I've asked David just to say a few words of introduction. David?
Thank you, Greg. I appreciate that. Good afternoon, everyone. And as Greg said, this is a unique situation that we're all in. I hope everyone is safe and taking care of yourselves and your families. We are really excited about this month's presentation. We are spotlighting several technical assistance centers that are funded throughout the department, and we hope that these centers are provided the targeted, unique services that you've been asking for. Going forward, please don't hesitate to ask if there is any additional specific area of technical assistance you'd like our support in. We're here to support you. And again, thank you for your dedication and commitment to our students. Turn it back over to Greg and the team. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, David. I have just a few kind of housekeeping announcements before we get into our content. First of all, with regard to the SPP APR and the State Systemic Improvement Plan, we want to thank states for timely submission of their APR clarifications and SIPs last month through the new EMAPS reporting tool. We're in the process of reviewing states' clarified submissions and preparing for the determination process, which will occur mid-June, as it typically does. With regard to your IDEA grant applications, I want to thank Part C states for their timely submission of their FFY20 grant application. We look forward to receiving all the Part B applications by Friday the 15th, that's tomorrow, by close of business. I know some of them have already come in, which is great. Remember, if you're intending to mail your hard copy application now, we still need an electronic submission of your document that shows the signature. If you have any questions about the submission process, please send an email to Jennifer Simpson, who leads our program group, and that's jennifer.simpson@ed.gov. I wanted to mention for our Part C listeners a little bit about the extended Part C option. States that were interested in pursuing the extended option should have notified OSEP by May 1st when their when their Part C applications were due. We know that some states have been wondering if the extended option is a remedy for assisting children that are transitioning out of Part C but cannot be picked up by Part B due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Unfortunately, the extended option is not the quick fix that it may appear to be due to requirements around the partnership between Part C and Part B programs, the development of policies and procedures, the need for public participation, and other requirements. You probably know that the Secretary has requested some flexibilities to address the transition issue and is awaiting a response from Congress. As soon as we have more information, we will be happy to share that with you. But in the meantime, if your Part C program is confident that it wants to pursue the extended option, please let Jennifer Simpson know as soon as possible, but in no case later than Friday, May 29th. I believe so far we just have 2 states that have made that notification. A couple other things, data displays. Our Research to Practice division just released a new data display on students with emotional disturbance, and that can be found on the IDEA website, and I believe that's this Fast Facts website here. So please click on that if you're interested in accessing that data display. I think you'll find it very informative. And then COVID-19 updates. We could go to that next slide. We have been working closely with several of our TA centers to try to provide resources to assist you, to assist your local programs. I want to kind of walk through who we have presenting today. From the Early Childhood TA Center, we have Christina Kasparak and Megan Vinn. They'll be presenting in that order. From the National Center for Systemic Improvement, we have Michelle Rovins. From OESE's Comprehensive Center, we're proud to present Danielle Smith. And then we'll be wrapping up our presentation with Jennifer Reed, who's also our host today, talking about resources that are available on OSEP's Ideas That Work website, which you see up here on the screen. So without further ado, I think we're going to turn it over to Christina.
All right, thank you, Greg. And I'm going to share my screen. So you should be able to see the ECTA website. Hi, everyone. This is Christina Kasperzak. And as Greg said, Megan Vinn and I are just really pleased to share the wealth of resources we've been able to organize on our website to support state and local administrators, educators and providers, and families during the pandemic. I thought I'd start on our homepage so that you can see here, right up at the top in that yellow banner, you can go directly to the COVID-19 page or to the page that's related on remote service delivery and distance learning. Alternatively, you can see under our featured section on the left, we have those headers, but then you can also see the sub pages that you might wish to go directly to. So I'm going to point out some of the highlights that I think might help you navigate and also share resources in your state. First, I want to show you that we've created pages for some specific audiences to help folks navigate the page. So I'm going to go to the Family Resources page first. And so you can see we are hoping this will help families quickly and easily find the resources that are most specifically designed for them. When you look at I want to point out, when you look at the left toolbar, it's important to see that this little icon with the 3 lines allows you to expand to see what other pages are available. So that's important wherever you are, if you want to find other resources that are specific to the COVID, or the COVID resources that we have. So what we have on the Family Resources page are specific learning activities and supports for families, and then also resources specific to social emotional development during this time. And I'll just scroll down a little bit. You can see that we have practice guides for families. We have the IRIS Center's module on supporting learning during COVID. We have a number of state-specific resources that are great here. And also we have some NCPMI resources that include like tip sheets and scripted stories. So those are really excellent resources for families to use on our page. The second audience I wanted to point out is if you're trying to help providers or educators use our site and find specific things, right under again in that green toolbar, the provider and educator use of technology is going to take folks to the page that I think is most useful to that audience, although they may find some other pages useful as well. So here we have resources around engaging and preparing families, and that includes recorded webinars, video illustrations, online modules, and some other resources. And again, I want to page down, not too quickly, I don't want to make people sick, but we have a lot of resources here. We have a whole collection of videos now, and we keep adding to that collection. The latest one right here is on build your video conferencing skills. And so again, I encourage you to look at a lot of the videos that will be very helpful for seeing what does it look like when we do a visit with a family, and how to use best practices during this time. And you'll see lots of other resources from experts around the country, from the Positive Early Learning Experiences Center and CPMI, Robin McWilliams. I know we have things from FIP and NCHAM, so lots of great resources there for direct service providers and teachers. Then, of course, I want to point out there's a lot of great resources for state and local administrators. So again, when I look at these topics, you can see under technology and privacy and reimbursement, state guidance and resources, which I'll show you in a moment. But I think if I go to the main COVID page, this is a good starting place for state folks. And you can see what we've tried to do is begin with these federal pages so that you can find the latest federal information from the Department of Education, Health and Human Services, Medicaid, CDC, and others. And you'll notice some really key things are right at the top from under the Department of Education, OSEP's Ideas That Work page on continuity of learning, and the supplemental fact sheet, which many people have been going to and finding right away. But a lot of resources on FERPA and other federally important resources that you'll want to find. I wanted to point out that we are very pleased to have the state guidance, as I mentioned. We know how important it is at this time to be sharing from one state to another about the kinds of guidance and resources you're developing. And we wanted to encourage that. So on this page, each state is listed with the resources that we've been able to identify. And we encourage you, if you're a state person and you have new guidance, to send that along to us, because we really want to facilitate sharing across states so that you can benefit from one another. And the last thing we wanted to share is I'm going to let Megan talk to you about our FAQ page that we've recently developed.
Thanks,
Megan?
Christina. Yes, thanks, Christina. Like Christina said, we've been, I think it's probably no shock that we've been getting lots of questions related to sort of the delivery of IDEA early childhood services during the pandemic. And so we've been doing a couple of things with those. We do get some questions that are really specific to the law or policy. And so we've been submitting those questions to OSEP to make sure that they have the list of questions that we're getting that seem really connected to sort of policy guidance. But then we've also been looking across state policies, sorry, not state policies, state strategies, state policies, and other pieces to see how's the field sort of handling some of these questions. And so you'll see within this page, we've sort of combined them. There's sort of a couple of topics that keep coming up. This list, depending on the types of questions we continue to get, may change, but currently we have some questions on consent, child find, assessment, transition, remote service delivery, and distance learning. And really that's sort of the remote service delivery and distance learning is sort of the catch-all for teleintervention, telehealth, any of those pieces. We're also getting some questions on child and family outcomes and fiscal. Something to note is that as you come in, Christine, yes, if you want to scroll down a little, Christina, you'll see the question, and again, it's really sort of about what strategies are being used. Christina, if you click on maybe the first one on consent, it'll open up to the answer or to an answer, and we'll also give you a list of some different strategies or some different guidance from actual states or forms or other things that might be useful to you as you're trying to kind of consider how you do this. I did want to make sure that I added and noted that we have some more questions. Evaluation and assessment comes up quite a bit. I think that's probably no shock. And so we have some things that we're working on currently related to sort of, there were 2 webinars that are going to be posted here. They're posted on our webinars page related to applying assessment principles to evaluation for eligibility remotely. And so that should be up shortly. And then similarly, we also want to think about we'll be adding a table of tools that are curriculum based or criterion referenced assessments, norm reference tools, and screening tools that are sort of what we're calling remote, quote unquote, remote suitable for now. And so those things are all coming, as well as we've gotten some questions about equity that you won't necessarily see here just yet, but we're working on some things related to equity considerations as you're doing some remote service delivery and distance learning. And so I think you can take some time. Maybe the last thing I'll say is we know that this continues to change, and so we're doing our best to update these answers as new information comes in or add to it as we get new things. So in the answer field, you'll see what date the answer was updated. And so we think that'll be a way for you to know a way for you to see that maybe it's been updated based on more recent guidance. So yeah, so with that, I think, Jennifer, I turn it back to you in case there are any questions at this time before we turn it over to Michelle.
Yep. If anyone has any questions for right now, feel free to enter them into the questions box. We'll give that just a moment to see if anything pops up. And at any time during the presentation today, I should say, feel free to enter your questions into the question chat pod, and we'll make sure to address them. We have several times during the presentation where we're going to take questions. At this time, however, we don't have any that came in. So I think what I will do is I'm going to change the presenter over to Michelle.
Hi, everyone. Michelle Robins here from the National Center for Systemic Improvement. Thanks for inviting us to join you today. We are a collaborative team. As Christina and Megan mentioned, we are trying to work across the spectrum, working closely with OSEP to be sure that we're getting resources out and resources posted as quickly as possible. As Megan said, this is a constantly changing event here, so bear with us and let us know if you don't find resources that you need. So I'm taking you now to the NCSI homepage. We have been working across all of the TA centers that OSEP funds on the Part B side to collect all of their resources and create a COVID-19 resources hub here on the NCSI site. So this is just our homepage where we're starting. And you'll see one of the things that you'll see and you'll hear a little bit more about as well is in addition to the resources that we have been collecting at NCSI, the Comprehensive Center Network has been collecting resources, and we've been working with the National Comprehensive Center and looking for opportunities for collaboration. In addition, we link here to the Early Childhood TA Center site and the Center for Parent Information and Resources site. So we're hoping that this can be a little bit of a one-stop shop when you get here. If you need something different, hopefully it will link you right over. If you come to our site and you have a question and you don't find a resource, please feel free to use this COVID-19 information request form. That puts your request right into our system, and we have a team of folks that are ready to respond. And as mentioned earlier, if you have any questions that are related to legal requirements, you can submit that right to the COVID-19@ed.gov site. So right here on our homepage, we've sort of divided our resources up into 3 categories. So the first one I'll take you to is our COVID-19 policy guidance. And the wonder of technology. When you get to this, if you click on the COVID-19 guidance, you'll see there's 3 subcategories here: federal, state, and state student with disability focus. If you click on federal, you'll notice the federal guidance that's been coming out. If you go back and click on the state, you'll get links to all of the state resource pages. You can click either here or just go down the list. And then if you click on the state with students with disabilities, you'll get links to states that have state-specific COVID guidance for around kids with disabilities. So if you're looking for what other states are doing and you're interested in that information, this is a good place to come. We are working to update that information on a regular basis. So in addition to the COVID-19 guidance, you can click on distance learning. This is, again, another new topic where we've been putting all of these resources we're collecting from all of the TA centers, and we are continuing to collect those resources over time. Centers continue to submit, so I'll encourage any folks that are listening in to keep submitting. We update on a weekly basis. If you see these, you can then go ahead and you can narrow down your search if you want to look for how to provide distance learning. If you click on that, you'll see there's a variety of resources, tips for instructors, teaching deaf kids, how can I support my child's development as a writer, et cetera, et cetera. Need to go all the way through the list. And then the third part of that is telehealth and telepractice and teletherapy. We are collecting resources around telepractice and teletherapy. This is an area where we don't have as many resources, so certainly if you know of some great stuff that we don't have, please let us know. And these are the 3 categories that we've added for the COVID-19, with the COVID-19 resources. You can, again, if you are looking for a particular set of resources, when you click on distance learning, in addition to the initial categories that I just shared, you can also, if you have a particular audience that you're looking for, a particular age group, you can go further down and click on particular information that would even narrow your search and hopefully give you just what you're looking for. So in addition, I want to spend just a minute on a resource that's attached to a webinar available in the handouts window. This is some of the work that NCSI has been doing since COVID hit mid-March. I think some people feel like it's still March. We've been working with the SEA leaders, all of the state special education directors. We've done a series of open door sessions, really just to help them share resources with each other, ask questions. We also have, in addition to our work on the SEA Leadership Learning Collaborative, we have an Improving Low Performing School Systems Collaborative that has done some work really thinking about connectivity, resource allocation. Our Evidence-Based Practices Learning Collaborative has been doing some work really on communication structures and supports during distance learning, continuity of learning. And then our Results-Based Accountability and Support Learning Collaborative has been doing a series as well of open door sessions. In addition, these are collaborative meetings are all in addition to their regular collaborative meetings. So any state is welcome to join any of these open doors. You don't have to be a member of the collaborative. If these topics are of interest to you, please feel free to reach out and we'd be happy to set you up with the schedule for the open doors upcoming. You can see here a little sense of the requests that we've been receiving through our website, in addition to the numbers of resources that we have added to our library. We've been working on a cross-center team on some virtual IEP guidance tip sheets. That's work that's just been posted on the SIPR site, on our site as well, but it was a collaborative across the Progress Center, Cadre, and centers as well. Those are also, a lot of those resources are available in Spanish. So just a quick shout out to a couple of our state partners. If you look here, our most accessed resources so far, one is from Indiana, so go Indiana. One is from Kansas. And the third one is actually from the University of Kansas, the distance learning for students with significant cognitive disabilities. One last thing I'll point you to is just thanks so much for visiting. You can see we've had a great increase in our website usage. So that will conclude our part on NCSI. If anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Michelle. We did have one question that came in, and I'm not sure who'd like to field it. It's actually asking that there seemed to be a lot of similar information between both websites. And so someone was just asking for a little bit of clarity between the difference between resources on the different sites.
Sure. You know, there probably is there's a lot of duplication for sure. I would say, and I'm certainly welcome others to respond as well, the Early Childhood TA Center is, as its name would imply, for early childhood. So they're focusing a little bit more their resources and their guidance on young kids, birth through 5. The National Center for Systemic Improvement is really focused more on Part B, so kind of that, if you will, K-12 or K-21, K through graduation. But there's obviously some overlap there, and there's also some systems and some resources, some distance learning strategies that work for all kids and work, you know, across those age ranges, and as well as guidance for parents. So because we know that there are lots of folks out there who have their sites where they go, where their familiarity, their relationships built, we are trying to do our best to make their resources readily available wherever you go.
Yeah, and Michelle, this is Megan, and I just wanted to add too that I think that's exactly right. We're focused on birth to 5, Part C early intervention, and Section 619. But I think that key piece that you're talking about is when you come and you see most of our, or I shouldn't say most, all of our resources and videos really are geared towards showcasing young children and their families. But I do think, like you said, there's a lot of maybe similarities about how to support families currently. And so I know we have a lot of resources on family coaching that, even though they're geared towards or they're giving examples for birth to 5, may be very appropriate for some of the work that K-12 is now needing to do as they support families in supporting their children while everyone is at home.
Perfect. Thank you so much. That is the only question that we've had come in so far. So I think what we'll do is we'll move on. We're going to make Danielle is next. And Danielle, you should have been promoted to presenter, so you should be good. I can see your screen, Danielle, but we can't hear you at the moment. Oh, there you go. I bet you can
Great.
talk now.
Thanks so much.
There you go.
Okay. Fabulous. Hello, everyone. My name is Danielle Smith. I am a group leader with the Office of Program and Grantee Support Services in the Office of Elementary and Secondary Education. So very happy to be joining my OSEP partners today. And our office manages many of the technical assistance centers on the OESE side. And so I'm here to share a little bit of what's been going on in those centers and what resources are available here. But I wanted to first just start with a bit more information about our collaboration across the department. The Office of Elementary and Secondary Education has been working side by side with the Office of Special Education Programs, the Institute for Education Sciences, and other partner offices, including the Office of Educational Technology, to pull together these resources and to organize ourselves to provide more strategic support to states during this time. Some of the initial actions that we've taken are to form an internal cross-departmental team to coordinate our technical assistance work. We've started creating these resource collections, including the two that the ECTA Center and NCSI have just reviewed for us. Many of our centers have created COVID-19 specific resource pages, and we're currently working with teams at the department to update both the ed.gov coronavirus website as well as our other program office websites. So I know we're going to go through the OSEP Ideas at Work page in a minute. We're also working on developing some resources to support parents and educators and school leaders during this time, and specifically focusing on evidence-based strategies and digital learning. And we're coordinating with partner organizations. These are some of the partners that OESE works with, the National Association of ESEA State Program Administrators and the Council of Chief State School Officers, to make sure that we're all working together to support you. So I wanted to use that as a broader context for some of the work that we're doing and how OESE centers are contributing. Some of the first things that we've tried to do are really just understand what the needs are, both immediately right now, as well as forecasting what the needs are going to be as we move into planning for the next school year. We're then trying to map available services and resources to those needs so we can figure out where we need to better coordinate across our offices and across TA centers. And then identify a couple key priority areas where it makes sense for us to have centers work together to develop services and additional resources. We're also trying to make sure that we're sharing information as much as possible. So you'll see a lot of the same kinds of resources cross-referenced on many of our sites. And that's really just to make sure that wherever you go, you have access to good resources and information, and can link to other places that might have more topically specific information for your needs. This just gives you a sense of some of the different areas that our offices work in and the different centers that are represented by the key offices that are part of this coordination effort. So I'm now going to talk a little bit more about specifically the comprehensive centers that work with all states. And I'll also talk a little bit about our equity assistance centers that have been doing a lot to support, particularly at the local level right now. So for the comprehensive centers, we have established on the Comprehensive Center Network website a COVID-19 resource page. You can navigate there from the homepage, and it's compcenternetwork.org. On this page, we have started to pull together resources. So similar to what our other center partners shared, we at the very outset collected resources that support continuity of learning across a number of different topic areas, grade areas, areas of focus, and created a resource inventory. This main landing page also includes resources that the Department of Ed has put out, so some of the policy and guidance documents and fact sheets, as well as provide some links to other partners. If we look back to our resource collection, the Resources for Continuity of Learning database is a searchable database. So you can select a topic or select an audience that you're looking for, a particular resource, and the database will filter for those resources. You can also use these filters on the different columns to filter resources as well. And then in addition to that, we've created a number of resource collections around specific topics and for specific audiences. So here you see we have resource collections around ensuring equity, resources to support social, emotional, and behavioral learning, resources for school leaders, for LEAs, for SEAs, for offline use, for educators and families. So these we've pulled together and are continuously updating so that we're trying to organize resources for specific purposes, because we know the amount of resources can be really overwhelming at times. So I wanted to make sure you are aware of these databases as well as to know where to go if you'd like to work with your comprehensive center or just get in touch with them for more support. So if you click on the Meet the Centers button at the top of the Comp Center Network page, it will take you to an interactive map where you can click on your state, and that will take you to information about your center. And there's contact information for your center director right there. So you're welcome to reach out to your regional comprehensive centers that are working with your state if you have a specific request for support. We also have been working as a comprehensive center network to coordinate work across the 20 comprehensive centers, the 19 regional centers, and the national center to think about supports that we could provide to all states. And we're looking at supports in a number of different areas, but some things that are coming down the road, we anticipate. We've already started providing some support around the CARES Act and working with individual states to think about how to potentially use additional federal funds from CARES Act programs. We're also working with states on finance and budgeting, and we're in the process of developing a finance and budgeting strategic planning framework to help states with some of the fiscal decision-making that you'll be doing and weighing priorities going into the next school year. We're also thinking about topics such as impacts on the teacher workforce, how to support educators, how to support summer learning, and how states can begin planning for returning to school. So there will be a lot more coming out of the center network, and we'll be keeping you all informed as new resources and new services are available. In addition to the comprehensive centers, our office also manages equity assistance centers. There are 4 of them. They support regions across the country. So to give you a brief overview, the 4 Equity Assistance Center regions are Region 1, 2, 3, and 4. Region 1 supports the Northeast, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands. Region 2 supports the South. Region 3, the Midwest and Plains. And Region 4 is the Western region and the Pacific. Each of these Equity Assistance Centers have also created their own COVID-19 specific resource pages. And our Equity Assistance Centers work on a number of different topics, but primarily support states and school districts and schools in dealing with disproportionality and issues of inequity around race, national origin, religion, or sex. To give you a sense of some of the resources that are available here, this is our Region 1 Mid-Atlantic Equity Center, and there are a number of resources that they've created. These are all publicly available, whether or not your state is in this region. Some of them in particular are a conversation with teachers and a conversation with students. So these were live conversations with teachers and students about the impacts of COVID-19 on their lives and their school experience right now. And there are future conversations as well. So you see the Family Room webinar series is happening every Thursday, and some other things that states can participate in. With our South Region 2, we have a webinar series that they've been hosting webinars frequently, sometimes more than once a week, starting in March. And all the recordings of these webinars are available on this website. So you can register for future webinars or access resources here. And a lot of these webinars are geared at resources for teachers to think about digital learning strategies and distance learning education. We also have conversations with school leaders and district and state leaders, and some upcoming opportunities for thinking about how districts are approaching this and perspectives on using different technology platforms. So if you're interested, these are more resources that are available to you, the free webinar series from Region 2 IDRA. Our Region 3 Center, which supports directly the Midwest and Plains, but also is available to these resources available to everyone, has created a Flipgrid where folks are adding resources and sharing here. So another place of interest. And MSU Denver runs our West EAC, the Region 4. And their COVID-19 page focuses on some resources, particularly around the digital divide. And so we wanted to make sure you are aware of those. In addition to the comprehensive centers and the equity assistance centers, OESC also has a number of other technical assistance centers. So in your handout, we've included a quick reference guide with links to all of these web pages of the OESC Technical Assistance Center. Others that might be particularly relevant right now, the Readiness and Emergency Management for Schools Center, the Center to Improve Social and Emotional Learning and School Safety, and the PBIS Center is shared with the Office of Special Education Programs. We contribute to that as well. So if you want to have quick links to any of these centers' web pages, we have a one-pager attachment for you here. So hopefully this gave you some additional ideas of places that you might go for support, and certainly happy to take any questions that you have.
Thank you so much, Danielle. If you do have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat and question area. We haven't had any come in yet, so if you do have any, feel free to enter them at any time. We will have a space at the very end of the presentation for questions as well, so we can always answer them at that time. And so since we haven't any had come in, I'm going to change the presenter back to myself. And we're going to go. Excellent. Well, hello everyone. My name is Jennifer Reed, and I am a Technical Assistance Support Associate with the American Institutes for Research. Through the task order for IDEA, we have worked with OSEP to create the Continuity of Learning During COVID-19 resources page, so even more resources. OSEP wanted to provide information and resources to help educators, parents, and families and related service providers meet the educational, behavioral, and emotional needs of children and youth with disabilities. On the page, we start with several resources that OSEP has chosen to highlight in our featured resource carousel. These resources are going to be updated regularly, so there'll be new ones, so you can check back for those. We have a welcome message from OSEP. Then in the next section, we wanted to provide information and links for the U.S. Department of Education's COVID-19 resource page, which has information and links from the CDC and information and resources for elementary and secondary schools, institutions of higher education, and parents and families. And we also wanted to provide links both back to ECTA and NCSI because of the wealth of information that everyone has. We wanted to make an easy place for you to get to their resources as well. The next section of the page provides two topical issue briefs. The briefs describe evidence-based and promising practices to support the academic and social and emotional needs of students with disabilities through remote and distant learning instruction. The briefs include categories of practices, steps and considerations for implementing the practices, and links to specific tools or more information related to the practices. They also include vignettes from stakeholders about putting the practices together. We do have a topical brief for related service providers that is currently under development, and it will be highlighted both in the featured resources in the carousel at the top and then here in this section. So make sure to stay tuned for more information on that. And then the last section on the page is the resources for educators, parents, and families and related service providers. For us, the resources are listed alphabetically. If you find a resource and you'd like more information, you can use the drop down. You'll get a description of the resource. And then we've also tagged them so you can see what the resources, what their focus areas are for that particular resource. Now, we know that a lot of people may not know the name or something right away. We've also made it so we've got a filter for the resources. We've broken the filter down. You can search by age, by audience, or by topic area. So by selecting a topic, hitting apply, it'll automatically bring you to the topic areas that you have selected. So I did visual, and you can see that we have 2 resources that show up there. So it's an easier way to find resources and information. We will be updating and adding information and resources regularly, and we hope that you'll find this page helpful. We know that there is a lot of information out there and a lot of places that you can go. We're just trying to provide an additional place. If you do have any questions about the resources or the information on this page, you can contact us through the Contact Us, either through the top navigation or through the bottom of every single page on the Ideas That Work site. So this is the time we're going to kind of be wrapping everything up. So if you do have any questions, feel free to enter them into the chat box, and we will be happy to answer any questions at this time. We haven't had any questions come in yet, but Greg, if you wanted to say anything.
Still no questions, huh?
Still no questions.
Quiet group. Well, if you're like me, I'm impressed and a little overwhelmed by the number of resources, and I'm excited to go in and explore some of those that seem particularly relevant to me, my family, and the folks I work with at OSEP and in the States. But I want to thank all of our presenters for walking us through the resources that their respective centers have to offer. If you missed some things during the presentation, to be honest, I sure did. We will be recording we have recorded this whole presentation, and it will be made available on the Grads 360 website, as it always is. It may be a few days, so give us some time, but early next week, it should be available to us. Before I close, there was one item I neglected to mention. In addition to having David Cantrell join us as our new Deputy Director, I'm also pleased to announce that we have a new Associate Division Director in our Monitoring and State Improvement Planning Division, replacing Judy Gregorian, who retired after serving many long years in OSEP, is Christine Pilgrim. And I'm sure many of you know Christine. She's a veteran member of our staff, very accomplished, and we are excited to have her join our leadership group. So Jennifer, do you see any questions or comments in the chat?
We have had quite a few comments that have come in so far saying thank you so much, that this was helpful. So we appreciate all of those comments. And we had a couple related to specific that I will pass on to the presenters that I was asked to pass on. So those are the ones that have come in. So I think,
okay.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds great then.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We really appreciate your attendance, and we hope you stay safe and have a wonderful day. Thank you very much for joining us.